Okay, so I'm just going to go over a few of these. I'm going to show you a slightly different way of doing some of them, a little trick that works some of the time, so please pay attention. I know everybody's familiar with you can borrow here and you can do that. Sometimes that's more work than it's worth. Okay, so you want to pay attention for, sometimes we can do things a different way, and you can use this to help check your work as well. So, like for instance, number 1. Make sure you always write the first number on top. Okay, and we're going to line up the decimals, and please rewrite the question just so the numbers are bigger and easier to read, showing all work. Don't try to squeeze it in, make it small. It takes a fraction of a second longer, but it makes a difference because we won't make as many mistakes if everything is written nice and big. So a few pieces of information just to review. Decimals always line up when you're adding, subtracting. And if you're missing any numbers vertically, like there was no number underneath the 4 and the 9, so I put zeros. So 0.5 is the same as 0.500. Now, you can start this off in the typical way: 9 minus 0, 0, 4 minus 0 is 4. And you get to here, and you see 3 minus 5, and this is where you might know the algorithm or the set of steps to do when it goes to below 0, right? Which is borrowing. You cross off this and you do that. I want to propose just a slightly different way that you can use some of the time, doesn't work all the time, but it might be easier. Just include the next number over. So instead of doing 3 minus 5, do 33 minus 5. Do you know what 33 minus 5 is? 28. Right? And don't forget the decimal. So 2.849. It works the same way as if you did a bunch of other steps. So if I went through and I did, okay, cross it, you don't have to do this, but if you did this, cross it off, and you got 13 minus 5, you'll get the same answer, but it's more steps, and maybe you can make mistakes there when you have more steps than necessary. So keep that in mind. When possible, you can always just look at the next number over. Got a little meter. 33 minus 5 is 8. Notice how I'm ignoring the decimals. I just bring it down and it works itself out. So if you like that, go ahead and use it. It's easier. It's fewer steps. Go ahead and use it. It won't work on every problem, but it is nice when it does. We can go down to same thing here on number 5. Write this down with me. 3.4. Rewrite it, please. Nice and big so you can see it. We expect to see all your work written out like this. Nice and legible, big, so it's easy to understand what you did. So instead of doing, well, you can't do 4 minus 9, so you can borrow this and that, can you just figure out how far apart 34 is from 29? Or if you had $29, how much more would you need to get $34? Close. Oh, was it 5? No, you're right. 5. So it's 0.5. Yeah, it's 0.5. And that's it. Borrowing and everything works, but sometimes you don't need to do all that. Okay, we get beyond just following the same steps over and over, just for the sake of, well, that's the step, so we must follow it. Now, let's see here. When you get to something like this, number 4, let's write that out correctly. 7.5 and minus 1.68, and once again, we're missing a number. Fill it in. And something like on this problem, just because of the type of problem it is, it may not work that great. I mean, if you try to do it here, we can't do 0 minus 8, but 50 minus 68 doesn't really work either. So in that case, we'll just go back to our usual routine and say, well, that's a 4. We're borrowing a 10 from the left, so now this is a 10 instead of 0. 10 minus 8 is 2. Can't do 4 minus 6. We could do 74 minus 16 if you like doing that. 74 minus 16 and get our answer. Or you could just do borrow and do 14 minus 6. So you'll get 8, line up your decimal, and 6 minus 1 is 5. So what I've just shown you is a nice faster way that works some of the time, but other times you might have to go back to a longer method. Okay? Now, taking a look at the back, when you are subtracting, what number goes on the top, which number goes on bottom? Meaning, if I did like this, could I do this? Yeah, you can't do that, right? The first number is always on top. So make sure you keep things in the correct order, just a small mistake that you see sometimes. So you have to rewrite it. And 4.947, okay, and then fill in the missing zeros. Okay. Now, of course, we're more concerned with accuracy than speed. We don't want you saying, this is super easy, I did this years ago, I'm not even going to worry about showing all the work because it's so easy. And then when we come around and check it, we have two answer keys, and we're going to check every single problem to make sure they're accurate. And if they're accurate, if they're not accurate, you redo them. So I'd rather have you work on it, check as you go, don't check at the very end with each other. Make sure you're both doing it correctly, and if you guys get different answers from each other, go ahead and talk about that and fix it up. Well, what we'd be most impressed with is not you finishing first and being done and then having things wrong, but finishing, then checking with each other, and then when we come around and check your work for the first time, you have them all right because you've done all this checking already with each other. That's what's really good. Same thing on your tests and quizzes. As a teacher, we don't look at the first person that turns it in and say, oh, that's the best one because they finished first. Usually it's because they haven't checked any of their work. That's why they're turning it in. They're not done. They don't have the highest grade usually on the whole class. It's the person that keeps it and checks it. Make sure they didn't make any mistakes, and they usually catch mistakes, fix them, then they turn it in. Those are the higher grades. So keep that in mind. Accuracy is way more important than speed. We still have plenty of time today and tomorrow to finish this up. I don't want you rushing just to be done today. I'd rather have it all correct. Okay? So go ahead and work the rest of the period, and we'll be around checking and helping you out as needed.